Morning, or not morning. Good day, everybody. It's 27th of May, 2025, and it's like almost 1, maybe a quarter to 1 in the afternoon here. Raining all day. I could have did a video earlier, but I didn't want to go out in the rain, and it did stop raining, and then it started again, and it looks like for the moment, it's very, very little, so I can meet, well, no, I guess I'm just too far away. Anyway, so there's some things I'd like to talk about. No really big news. It's not like anybody invaded or anything. Same bloodshed going on all over the place. Israel really doing some terrible things. Slowly, very slowly, a lot of people are starting to wake up and saying they can't support that anymore with all the killing all the people, especially children. It's truly genocide. And not only that, not only just the bombings, and then they're bragging about how many humanitarian they are, and I guess it's been put out that they need like I can't remember, I think they said like 500 aid trucks every week or something, or every day, to come in, and Israel's letting 300, and that's part and parcel of their little thing. What they said, they're going to, instead of giving everybody 2,000 calories a day, they're going to try to make sure that they only get like 1,200, so that they can barely stay alive, I guess. But it's very obvious a lot of people are not going to get any food whatsoever. Lots of starvation going on. People are dying of starvation. All kinds of unknown diseases attacking children, and it's really terrible. You guys already know a lot of that stuff. But, you know, that's Israel. That's how Israel is. And United States in full support of that, obviously. Donald Trump and most of the government. Lots of police in a lot of places. And it looks like France is not, the leadership is not really in favor of that anymore, and a couple other countries. At least Macron and a few of those leaders, at least they're worth something anyway, instead of a lot of their other stupidity. I don't know, you can't be perfect. It's just like Donald Trump is much better than they are in a lot of ways, but Donald Trump, apparently, even if he doesn't say so, he's definitely in support of all of the bloodshed and all the people dying in Israel. Otherwise, he wouldn't be perpetrating all this stuff. You know, sending more and more bombs, just like in Ukraine. He's shipping, what did he, anyway, I got it written down here in my notes somewhere. I think it's 100 Patriots he is sending to Patriot systems, and 125 long-range missiles he's sending to Ukraine. But anyway, let's keep going. Escalation is in the air. That's how I kind of wanted to start at this. Wait a minute, I got like 2 sets. I was writing some things yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to do that. And I guess that's this paper right here. So it was on the 26th. Let me start with that. God, bear with me. When it's raining and have to carry out a bunch of crap and all the stuff I've been doing today, I get a little bit like I've got, I don't know, 15 fingers to work with. Okay. As far as this war is concerned in Russia and Ukraine, I mean, I guess you can call it Russia. It's you have to look at, well, what is it like now compared to what it was when it began, and physically, diplomatically, and mentally. You know, what's the difference in the changes? Physically, Russia has absorbed pretty much all of the Donbass and Donetsk, Lugansk, but not quite all of them. And also, immediately they got the Crimea. They got Kherson, they got Zaporozhye, and anyway, it's looks like they're talking about even 2 more regions that they're not even in right now. Probably Nikolaev. I don't know about Kharkiv, but of course it's a lot of threats going on, and Kiev continues to bomb civilians, and it's completely ignored by the government and the press in the United States. Of course, they're not reporting of all of the civilian casualties, and Donald Trump, he's only mentioning what we were told were some civilian casualties in Kiev after a lot of bombing by Russia for 3 nights. I didn't hear anything about last night, but I didn't hear, in truth, any reports of any civilians dying whatsoever, or I didn't even hear of any military, at least in those bombings. And obviously, there's going to be some. There's probably going to be some guards or something like that guarding some of these military facilities. So, I don't know. I haven't been hearing about it. Okay, that's the physical part of it. Diplomatically and mentally, Zelensky is willing, for appearances only, to give up or acknowledge that Russia has those those other grounds, those other territories. But of course, they are not going to give them up. And of course, it's in their constitution. They're going to continue to try to recover those militarily, by the way. Militarily to them means terroristically, because they're using terrorist attacks. And of course, they tried to infiltrate again into Kursk, I guess. I don't know about some of the other regions, Bryansk or Belgorod, but Kursk, they keep trying to get into Kursk, and they're getting slaughtered, I guess, when they do that. Sending in the cannon fodder that they get off the streets, I guess. Yes, and I would like to continue again, like I always do, that these areas, they've never really belonged to Ukraine. They're only artificially, and that was put on like by the, starting with Vladimir Lenin, which is the Donbass areas, and then Stalin did some of his things, and Khrushchev, gifted the Crimea to them. So that for the least period of time, the Crimea has been, I guess you'd call it, administratively attached to Ukraine, and that's about it. The people never acknowledged that they were Ukrainian, really, except maybe they did just because they happened to have been in the area administratively known as Ukraine. So anyway, that's just part of it right there, diplomatically. So, and Zelensky keeps pulling his media tricks, as everybody knows. So even Trump talks about it. Everybody talks about that. He tries to, he agrees with something to probably get a meeting and get himself in front of the cameras, maybe with some other important people, and that's when he starts playing his side to make whoever the other people are. He's using the media, believing that all the people are on his side, and he uses his own little bit of logic, completely forgetting about all the prerequisites about what happened and why the war started. So, they're doing this. And talk about some media stuff. Merz. What's his name again? Friedrich Merz from Germany. He was on some television talk show host, and he was talking that Russia's bombing the churches and they're bombing the school and they're killing the children. And it's like, well, did you get that mixed up a little bit? Is that Ukraine that's doing that? Russia's not doing that, obviously. But anyway, that's part of the game. It's just like Germany didn't report all of the bombings that West Ukraine was doing on East Ukraine. In other words, bombing and killing their own people. As everybody used that with Saddam Hussein and whoever else. But of course they didn't mention that when Ukraine was bombing and killing their own people. So I guess, I don't know, maybe because they're ethnically Russians and they speak Russian. Or maybe they acknowledge the fact that it doesn't really belong to Ukraine, any of those areas. So I don't know. So I don't know, I was going to talk also about, like I always do, the beginning of Russian history was Kiev, and anyway, I'm going to probably skip a lot of this stuff. Like I said, it takes forever to load this stuff up onto my phone. I don't even know why. I'm going to talk about that and hope I don't forget. As a matter of fact, maybe I should do that right now. I'll do that probably right now. Just a second. Let me make sure I know where I'm going to start when I come back to this stuff here. Okay. I'll get back to this stuff about Kiev. But anyway, I was going to talk about a little bit like of Rumble and YouTube and what's going on. I didn't talk to somebody. They were messaging. And it has to do with me, and I really don't like to spell out any names or anything like that, but I was on some show and podcast for a while. And anyway, the podcast is still going, but when we were on, I what we would have, like a couple hundred views, I don't know, sometimes 800, something like that. I don't know. We had 1,000 maybe a few times. I don't really know. It was live streaming. And when guests came on, like personally, and they sat there, and their information was put out, and when we only had like say 200, 300 views maybe at the most, I don't know, and their the media information was there, what their channel's name were, and YouTube and Rumble and all that, and they would get new subscribers. for just being on there, and only when we were having 200 views. But now going on that same channel, and the views are 20,000 views, 20,000, and yet they get no new views and no new subscribers. And I saw myself, their media channels were listed, as a matter of fact, even more media channels than they had before, and nothing, absolutely nothing. Nobody watched. In other words, and like I've been here on this before, and a matter of fact, I even heard from, I don't know, let me just, I don't want to get too deep into talking about this, but let me just mention that there are ways that you can buy views and that you can buy subscribers, apparently. And you got to pay something, I believe, every month. And I think the amount, I think it was quoted, and it's not that I was quoted in somebody, I don't know, maybe some people were asking me. As a matter of fact, they certainly were. They put some notes on my YouTube channel. But anyway, this other person obviously, and he admits that he took advantage of this, so he's paying like maybe $200 a month or something for this to get all of these views, and but they're all fake views. So it makes me wonder. And then I'm thinking about, I was telling you guys about a number of times, there's this person that gets 1 billion views. It's, I don't know, some rapper, maybe it's a group of people, I have no idea, but nobody's even ever heard of the guy, and he's rapping away, you know, and he gets 1 billion views, maybe over 1 billion, over 1 billion views. So that's incredible, and nobody's ever heard of the guy, and that's on YouTube I'm talking about. And I'm just now realizing, I don't know, I was thinking that somehow YouTube is doing this, but it looks like to me there are these I don't know, private organizations or something that you pay, and maybe it depends on how much you pay. Maybe you pay $1,000 and they give you 150,000 views. I have no idea. Maybe 500,000 views and 1 billion views. Maybe you got to pay them $1,000. I have no idea. So anyway, some person makes some song, they thought it was really great, and then they give themselves like 1 billion views. I don't know that these videos are sent therefore to many thousands of people. I don't know about that. I don't even know how I got it. I can't remember. That was a while ago. But anyway, it's just another part of this whole scheme that I'm finding out on how this works. So it is people that are buying views, and I think there's private people that are doing this stuff, selling these views and subscriptions and all that sort of stuff. And I think you got to keep the money going, because it makes you wonder. I mean, when you get these subscribers, what happens when you stop paying this money? Do the subscribers disappear? I don't know. But then again, I know another, I don't know, something else also involved in this. A person that has, I think, 26,000 subscribers, and they put videos out, and they don't even get in 3 numerals. They get maybe at maximum 40 views from 26,000 subscribers. I don't know how that works. Maybe YouTube doesn't send them anything, what do they call them, notifications. So like me, I don't know how many subscribers I have, and I don't know, sometimes you get, I think I get sometimes just 40 views. So anyway, that was one thing. So that was, I just wanted to put that out, because I complained a lot about YouTube, and it's not all YouTube's fault. Only maybe my uploading time. Okay. And in the good old days, I was going to say, back in Soviet times, the good old days when life was great. In the old days of the Soviet time, they had, life was great in places like Moscow, St. Petersburg, and some of the very larger cities, of course. But it was also in the Baltic cities, you know. So a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of them that were alive in the Soviet Union, and they used to love it if they went to like Vilnius and places like that, because those places, they got all of the special things. They got supplied regularly, all the fresh vegetables and all of the fruits, all that sort of stuff. And everybody else here, and most of these, like even, well, not Minsk, but some other, even good-sized towns, they had to do canning. They had to can. They had to get fruits from the summertime and can it if they wanted fresh fruits, as well as even a lot of vegetables, string beans and all that sort of stuff. So everybody had lots of these things, either in their house or their storage areas, like those right over there. And basements, I don't know. So, but now, of course, you don't have to do that here. Hopefully it doesn't change. You never know. The United States and the West, they seem to have ways to mess things up. But that's all I want to put out about that. Okay. But Ukraine, they got a lot of special stuff. They were, like I said, the spoiled stepchildren of the Soviet Union. They got everything better. And you know, that, like I said, it's part of their culture over there, and yet they still complain. Zelensky complains, and people talk about that. It's not just me, it's a lot of people. And I've said, hey, that's what I've been told, and that's what I've been noticing, and other. So everybody's talking about that. So they sit back and they complain until you give them more and more. And there's even people saying that that's the strategy, is to keep complaining, to get more and more stuff. Whatever, get more money, get more weapons, get more attention, get everything. So that seems to be, and I don't want to, like I said, get on the Ukrainian people, but I guess because it's not their fault, but it was ingrained into their character, into their culture, is to be never satisfied. Wait a minute, never satisfied. That sounds familiar. Anyway, and that's why Viktor Orban, he's consistently coming out and he's talking about that he does not want to see Ukraine coming into the Soviet, or into the European Union, because it will bankrupt the European Union. It probably will. That's probably one reason why Russia doesn't mind if it goes into the European Union. European, I said European, not Soviet. Okay. Okay. Let's see. He was saying it will. He didn't say bankrupt. I can't remember his words. I was saying the sucking sound and all that, but it was something like bankrupt. And of course, I think Viktor Orban remembers how things were back in the Soviet days. You know. But Kaya Kallas, maybe she was too young. And she was living high off the hog in those times. So, yeah. Oh, and a subscriber, I was even going to mention this, I forgot. But a subscriber was writing to me about there was an ostrich farm in Canada. I don't know if it was Alberta or wherever he said it, but apparently they were maybe doing experiments there with some sort of like H1N1 or H1N1H2 or H2N. I mean, when it's some of these bird flu virus things or whatever, and apparently they had killed a lot of them. They didn't kill some, and RFK Jr. was involved in that. But you'd have to look on some of the last videos, and I think it was from the Canadian guy. You see, I think it's a Canadian flag. You'll see that and read about that, and it's stuff you never really hear about. Even RFK was involved in it. It makes you wonder on how much important news, and of course to me it's very important about all of these vaccines and this, in my opinion, I can't say it on YouTube, but something to do with bio and something to do with what militaries have. So can I say bioweapon? Let's see. I don't know, maybe it depends a little bit on the context on how I say it. Maybe I can say bioweapon. Maybe I cannot say the word L, starts with an L, places where scientists do their work, and like dental technicians. And when I was worked in a dental laboratory, I'm not supposed to say certain words there. So anyway, and I don't know if it's the same person or some people, you know, like again, I said, you know, people that YouTube doesn't accept the likes, they don't accept the comments. I don't know. And the same guy that I was talking to you about, that has a YouTube channel, they do the same sort of things on him on his YouTube. He's on Rumble now. Maybe he didn't like all this stuff on YouTube as well. He's a doctor, and he's done a lot of research, and he would put things up and it would start to go viral, and somehow YouTube takes it down, maybe gives him strikes and all kinds of crap. I don't know. So it's YouTube is a lot involved with this too. Also, I put out here now Kate Hopkins. You know, you have to be very careful. I don't know if she's in Great Britain. She's British. I think she was maybe a parliament member or some important political person, Kate Hopkins, and she was talking about Starmer and bum boys, calls them bum boys. You know, some people call them maybe fudge packers. I have no idea. But she was talking, and she said, oh, but it's only rumor, you know, that some of these bum boys of Keir Starmer, well, I've already heard that, I mean, obviously it looks like that they didn't get paid, or maybe they didn't get paid what they thought, or maybe they were promised something, like one guy wanted to become the #1 male model on Earth or something like that. Maybe that's what they promised him, and they didn't deliver. I don't know. But apparently they didn't get what they were promised, or what they thought they should. They didn't get their due rewards. But anyway, I guess at least one of these guys was highly recommended by Zelensky, and Zelensky uses the guy out of his own experience, as he said, why he recommended this guy. And maybe, I think, as a matter of fact, she might have even said all three of them were recommended. And as you see, Macron, you see what these guys are into. And everybody's talking about that napkin, what was folded up in the napkin, or what was in that paper bag, or what the whole deal was about. And something, as you all know, that's not just a napkin. So, you know, let's just talk about that. Let's just not talk about that, let me say. Okay, Trump was angry, as you guys already know, about Putin and all this devastation that's going on, and he's of course saying, well, we're talking right now, but well, what about Zelensky when he sent 1,179 drones against Russia in, I think it was in 4 days, 1,179 drones, and he didn't have nothing to complain about that. He complained about Russia doing what Russia was doing. You know, maybe it's because Russia can shoot down all these drones, but that costs money too. So the drone swarm. I talked about that drone swarm. What was, I can't remember, 430, I think 430 drones they were swarming to try to kill Putin. Because there's talks going on. I'm not sure I'm going to be getting these things. Okay. A Georgian singer, it was pretty funny. He was up on stage in front of maybe his supporters or whatever in Georgia, and he had a Russian flag, and first he threw it on the ground, and then he picked it up, stuffed it in some kind of a shopping type bag, and he, turned around from the audience. Apparently he was clearly urinating on this Russian flag. And Maria Zakharova came out and said, her first thing said, well, a flag remains a flag, so it's still a flag. And she said, when God doesn't give men a brain, he has to make do with other organs. In this case, the one that most often ends up in his hand. So I guess she's calling him a wanker as well. So anyway, I don't know, like a lot of times in Americans would get pissed off when we saw, in the old days, 60s or something, people burning American flags. And it's like, I don't know, like we're told that and it's really silly when you think about that. It's something sacred. And of course, I don't know, Americans just have to get over that. They have to get over that. And it's like a flag, and it's just a flag. I mean, so what are you going to go do? And I think it was like even Jordan Peterson, he was talking to somebody about your belief and dying for your belief. And he's, this kid was far, far smarter than Jordan Peterson. He cleaned the floor with Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is nothing but a friggin' verbal con artist. And this kid, I don't know how old he was. He might have been 20, I don't know. He cleaned the floor with Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson trying to trap him in all these different ways and using his manner and all that sort of thing. And this kid, he wasn't falling for any of that crap. And he was asking this kid, what do you define as belief? And then the kid, I don't know what the kid said, but anyway, Jordan Peterson said, yeah, belief, I will die for my beliefs and all that. And then this kid is talking about, well, this pen right here on the table, I believe this is a pen, and I'm not ready to go die for my belief that is a pen. Things like that. And I don't know, he was really cleaning the floor with Jordan Peterson. And what else was he saying about that? If I can remember, dying for some sort of a belief, and I don't know. You'd have to try to find that. And I just remembered, I just forgot what it was I was going to say about Jordan Peterson. But he tries to lead this you know, to maneuver this conversation a little bit over this way and that way. And the kid was even beating him in all of those. Jordan Peterson is going this way and going that way. And the kid was beating him everywhere. It's incredible. I don't know. Jordan Peterson, I noticed that a long time ago. It's like this, who's this other guy, this Ben Shapiro? These guys are just a bunch of con artists. So I don't know. I'm not into these jokers at all. You know? You have to just kind of be on your feet. Be on your toes, and it's kind of when you're talking to these guys, and don't let them lead you around. I don't know if I could do it, but anyway, I'd like to see Jackson Hinkle. He could probably wipe the floor with those guys. But anyway, I don't know if Jackson Hinkle admires them, because he's pretty good, Jackson Hinkle, and that sort of thing, even though he's not one of these con artist guys. Okay, Trump put out a tweet that Putin has gone crazy, killing people in Kiev. Well, that's what I was talking about. I thought I mentioned this yesterday. Oh yeah, I was mentioning that. Yeah. I made it a 7-minute video that took like an hour or something to upload. Okay. And Trump said, I have always said that he wants all of Ukraine and not just a piece of it. I'll tell you what. Is that why he made the Minsk agreements? Why Putin made the Minsk agreement? Where it states that the Donbass stays with Ukraine, but they didn't want to obey, and they kept bombing and killing those people. And like I said, Lavrov said, and Putin said, that Russia goes to war for people, the United States goes to war for resources. And it's very strange also, if you find out, when Trump gave the order to send these 100 Patriot systems and 125 long-range, I don't know if they're Scalp missiles or ATACMS missiles to Ukraine, it was right after they signed this minerals deal. That's when Trump approved of it. So it's like a tit-for-tat thing, just to let you know. So that's also resources. In any case, Trump doesn't understand what the hell he's doing anyway. He doesn't understand Russia at all. And I think Alexander Dugin, the philosopher, the guy with the beard, he came out and he's saying, he's a Russian philosopher guy, and he's saying that he believes Trump is now starting to understand a little bit, that Russia will be doing this for 30 years if they have to. And I don't know. I don't know if Trump understands. Trump says one thing one day, and the same day, a little later, he says something completely different. I don't know. I don't understand Trump. Oh, it looks like it was 46 drones that they were used trying to kill Putin in that swarm thing. And in the mass, 3 days, it was 3 days from 20th to the 22nd of Ukraine, of 22nd of May, Ukraine launched 1,177 drone attacks. So that is that. I got more stuff to put out here. Oh man, it's a lot still. Let me try to go through this stuff as quickly as I can, people. Here we go. Like I started saying earlier, escalations in the air. And you might think that Russia's starting it, but it was started by Kiev, mostly with these drone attacks. And I talked also, I was mentioning about how many drones the Ukrainians have. They get more drones, far more than Russia. I think it's like 10 to 1, 10 to 1, far more drones. That's why they can have these drone swarms, and they make drones. And I'll tell you what, one of the missions of these bombings in Kiev, I think it stopped raining. I can walk around a bit. One of the missions of this was for Russia to destroy some drone factories. So you'll find out, and that was George Galloway, I guess, he also put that out, that they destroyed some drone factories, not just in Kiev, but in other places. So there was a lot of attacks going on. So that's why, it's going to help Russia. But it's not just that. Like I've mentioned in other videos, there are a lot of drones coming from a lot of other countries to Kiev. They're pumping out drones as fast as they can, I guess from the Baltic states, as well as Australia. Australia sends thousands of drones all the time to Ukraine. Здравствуйте. Anyway, but if you want to talk about who has, I'm talking about combat drones. Who has more drones? Obviously, China has more drones. China is the master of drone swarms. They can do wondrous things with that. That makes you really wonder if the United States plans on going to war with China, they're going to be into some deep doo-doo. And then China has these aircraft where they can launch thousands of drones from the aircraft. So in other words, you have this distance, a big beautiful ocean, as Donald Trump says. Look at these hands, but a big beautiful ocean, and it looks like it's possible that China can probably get some drones over there, or wherever the United States has their. I mean, because I'll tell you what, it works both ways. The United States has to have military assets right around China if there's a war against China, and China has some hypersonic missiles, and the United States doesn't have them yet because Russia stole them. Russia stole them. That's according to Trump. I tell you what, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things I kind of like about Trump, but I think, for one thing, as everybody knows, he's really full of himself. And that's just one thing, full of himself. And I think I don't know if he takes everybody else to be dumb or if he's dumb himself. I don't know, because I thought he was a lot smarter than that. He's smart in a lot of ways, but of course, to think that Russia went to the United States, and the United States only had one set of plans, and all the scientists, they all die. All of them that created hypersonic missiles. They can't repeat it. And nobody learned while they were creating it. I mean, come on, Trump. Yeah, I don't know. That's just way too funny. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I talked about this. Okay. Well, I have to also mention, drip here, it's raining, that a lot of the drones that are coming from Australia, they are like these cardboard ones, and I guess, there's only good for one use anyway. They're lightweight. So, anyhow, they're getting them from all over the European Union. The United States is sending drones, but apparently they're even behind. That's probably why the Houthi are able to shoot down the American drones, and the U.S. had to stuck their tail between their legs and run the opposite direction out of Yemen. They had their butts whooped from the Houthi. Even if they destroyed a lot of the places, they couldn't beat the Houthi. Okay. And the West hasn't been saying that Iran is sending drones there. Maybe because they're not. Russia had got some, I think, at the beginning, before the special military operation started, but they weren't sending any through that whole time. So, anyway. Okay. Talked about Mertz. Let's see. Oh, Mertz is now saying, like did I say that? That he is also now. They said he won on the I don't know who voted for him for that reason, but I think he actually got elected only because he's a mainstream guy in the CDU, CSU, and he was talking about curbing immigration, but he had this policy where he wants to send the long-range missiles, this Taurus, to Ukraine, and apparently he's back there again. Now he's saying it again. He said that, and then a little over a week ago, he said he's decided not to, and now he's decided that he is going to do that, and it's apparently has something to do with. Oh, I know somebody over there, somebody in my apartment building. Some lady's going to be staring at me with her dog. So it's going to be. He's going to be sending these. Yeah, she's looking over here. Ah, man. Wow. He's going to be sending them. He says, well, France is doing it. The United States is doing it. They're sending scalp missiles. They're sending, what do you call them? Storm shadows and TACMs and all this other stuff. So he's going to be sending the Taurus there. And it's, I don't know how long of a range. I thought that were only 500 kilometers or maybe. I was thinking they're sending, Trump is sending missiles that go 1,200 kilometers. So looks like the United States is beating out on that. Anyway, let's see. In the case of Mertz, though, that means that you have to send German soldiers. I guess it's too complicated to send those. So there's going to be some German soldiers going along with that. So he's sending troops to Ukraine as well. And Maria Zakharova also came out and said, well, that means that they have direct participation in the war. Direct participation for the first time. Germany is directly participating. They were getting close to saying that when Germany sent the Leopard tanks there. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. Oh, he said, oh, it's only going to be used against military targets. Only military, you know. But Ukraine is the ones supposedly going to be the ones that are getting to pick the targets. So it's not going to be military. It's going to be civilian. So anyway. So, and that's when he said that Russia is shooting them on civilians. Yeah, right. Big lie. Yeah. It's okay. I already mentioned a lot of this stuff, so I would oh, looks like something for anyway, let me keep going here. Don't want this to be too long. Okay, that was on March or May 11th. Trump announced he's sending 100 Patriot systems, 125 long-range missiles. So I got that one right. And I guess these are in German stockpiles. So they're sending them from the German stockpiles. Strangely enough. Okay, let's keep going here. What else? Watch out for people, because people do not want to walk in these puddles here. Okay. And I guess each system, each Patriot system is $100 billion. Well, that's so much. I mean, I don't know if these were German systems or just stockpiled in Germany. So did the United States had these all the time and they never sent them to Ukraine? 100 systems? I don't know. They're, and it says something about 100 billion. I don't know how much these things cost. I don't believe that. Maybe it's 100 billion altogether. They're $1 billion each. I guess that's what it was. I guess that's how Trump works towards peace. That's his peace thing, is to send these long-range missiles and Patriot systems there. You know, and the only way to end this thing, and they even acknowledge the fact that Russia is going to win. That Russia, they can't beat Russia. So it makes you wonder, well, is sending more weapons and Russia, I mean, what do they think that's going to do? When Russia's going to win anyway, it doesn't matter how many weapons, it just prolongs the conflict. So how is that supposed to end the war? You know, how is that supposed to bring about peace, you know? And even Zelensky knew all this stuff before. He would say, well, we're trying to get ourselves into a stronger position so we can use that as a bargaining chip in the peace negotiations. That's why he's trying to take over that portion of Kursk, so he can trade Kursk back to Russia to get some other parts of his areas or something. I don't know. Well, anyway, that didn't work. So interesting stuff going on. Interesting stuff. So Ukraine is now sending female inmates to war. As a matter of fact, there was even a film. See, I just saw this today, but yesterday I saw there was a woman. She's a sniper, a woman sniper, and she put down her rifle and started running, and Russia had to bomb her too. So she didn't make it. And unfortunately, you have to do this because now they're sending a lot of women, and they're sending them from the prisons, and they're sending people with tuberculosis or TB, venereal diseases, mental disorders, mental diseases. And in the schools, this I read a couple days ago as well. This is some interesting thing right now. The schools are forced to flunk 50% of the students that are doing exams so that they have no place to go except in the military. So then they are eligible to be drafted once they flunk out of school. So that's creating more people that are eligible to be drafted into the military. And I guess when they go around snapping up these people, a lot of times they want to see something. And if these people cannot present something, that's when they snap them up and throw them in the vans. So 50%. Okay, now the ruling party in Germany. I was wondering about this. It is the CDU, the CSU, the SPD, the Green Party, and of course I think the FDP didn't make it in. So it's essentially, and I don't know, Die Linke. I think Die Linke. I don't know if they got 5%. That's the kind of like the Communist Party, and Sarah Wagenknecht is not even in that. And I don't know. Maybe her party didn't make it. I'm not even sure. But apparently, it's essentially all those parties are against the AFD and the AFD, Alternative for Deutschland, and they're the more popular party, but of course they're sabotaging them to try to make, it's just because they're supposedly right wing, they're against unlimited immigration, they're against the war against Russia, but yet they're the Nazis, and all, it's just a bunch of crazy stuff. And of course these other parties, they are actually Nazis, and the AFD is the opposite. But they're trying to, I guess they call that projection. I say the opposite thing. You guys all know how that works. So, just see that guy giving me a look. Okay. Now, let's see. I think I was going to break his neck looking at me. Israel is now saying that because of some of these EU governments that are supporting the Palestinian cause, they are threatening to take 61%, they're going to take all of Gaza and 61% of the West Bank, they're saying. As you know, they do operations in the West Bank as well, and they're killing people, just not on as big a scale, definitely not as big a bombing scale as they do in Gaza, but they're still killing those people all the time. And so, yeah, they're threatening to take 61%, and they're going to take these, like all of these settlers or something with these illegal settlements and turn them into legal settlements. And I guess the area that's in this area called this area called Area C. Oh, you speak English. Well, I was just talking to some elderly lady, and I guess she's a pensioner. I think probably her husband is gone, and lives not far from me, I guess, and maybe I can speak some Russian or converse. Lady knows some English, so yeah, that's pretty good. She has friends, she says, that knows English, but like I said, I'd rather be talking with people that don't know much English, and I'm forced to speak some Russian, so because I need to speak it a lot more. Okay, but as far as news is concerned, the only other thing I wanted to put out is they had Elon Musk, and now he's leaving, he's going back to his Tesla stuff, and probably his rocket science, be a rocket scientist. And he's also saying, as far as corruption is concerned, whenever you send some money to these places, any kind of I don't know if he was referring, I just saw a clip of it. I don't know if he was referring to foreign countries or if he was referring to any kinds of these departments. I'm thinking he's talking about these departments, because there's also, if I can remember, there's something about that. If I didn't write down, I got to say something about that too. But anyway, he said there are levels of corruption, where a lot of times when they're sending some money for some particular cause, by the time it gets to the cause, sometimes it's absolutely zero left. And I know this stuff because I was familiar with a lot of things in a government in one other country, and what they would do is there's a lot of people on the way, and I guess it's designed to work that way. Because it's done for political favors, and so you put these people in these positions so that they're getting little handouts of money all the way down to the line, and if the cause is not that great or not so important or whatever, it's for some foreign country, I guess, it's not that important that they get as much money as what the news puts out, which is allocated for them. And along with this, and it's probably very similar, and it will work probably about the same way, is U.S. aid now. Apparently, the European Union, since Trump is cutting that out, a lot of that aid that goes to U.S. aid, and I remember Bill Gates saying, oh, it's really important, basically these people, George Soros, he was getting a huge sum of money from that as well. So a lot of the money that he was spending on, bringing migrants to the various countries, I don't know, the USA probably as well as into Europe, he was using it with that money from the American taxpayer. And Bill Gates, obviously he was getting a huge portion of that money as well, so he was complaining about it. But it looks like, I think it was like 50 billion. I think Europe is gonna, I don't know, they're gonna continuously keep pumping that in. A lot of these people have gotten their commitments now. They're gonna send monthly or annually big money to Ukraine all the time. But I think at one point what they're gonna do is they're going to be running out of money. But anyway, they're footing the bill for the US aid for right now. I just thought I want to put that out. And I guess that's about all the news for right now. So I gotta get back and do some other things here. And hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope a lot of that news is news you guys didn't get in many other places. So anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.